looking a little muddled at the moment, and then this is the first time I've ever seen the water, the first time I've walked around it. But I found 4 or 5 carp just mooching about in some weed, just doing what carp do, feeding quite naturally. They've obviously been flanking on somewhere. A couple of them are covered in clay. It's just an ideal situation. I could not resist an opportunity. The hook bait, probably the setup's not quite what I would have done if I'd had a bit more time to think about it. But I'm going to put this little spinner rig in and see if we can get a bite. They're aware of it. Here we go, here we go. Oh my God. I've got 2 of them definitely interested, and there's a 3rd fish. And once more fish arrive, the competition increases. It's just, this is mouth drying stuff. And yeah, he's definitely had a couple of mouthfuls. Still there, isn't it? I can just about make the hook bait out of it. There's nothing better in my life than chasing carp around. Whether or not they make a fool of me is completely irrelevant. And I was talking to Brad about it while we were watching these fish, and it almost seems childish, but as long as that remains, I will always try and catch when I can see them like that. I think the plan now, I'm going to bait this spot up, put a little bit more bait up there on a clear spot, the little rubbing spot up there that they use. I'm going to try and get a little bit more permanent down the edge, but I want to bait up a few spots along here, and we'll keep our eye on them, and hopefully they'll start to produce as the session unfolds. Look at that, Brad. Not an ounce of weed on it. We got the presentation right, and you know, I can't say fairer than that, but that's the first time I've ever used a spinner rig. I can't blame it. It's the carp have had their way, unfortunately. Right, time to move on. It's not very often in life that you get things that are going to inspire you so much. Certainly not at 65 years old, but getting a ticket for this syndicate was something that I really wanted to get. My whole carp fishing life really has revolved around mystery. Not actually quite knowing what's in the water, not knowing exactly how to get a bite, not knowing how to fish. So you have to be so adaptable and change with it when the conditions or the fish tell you to. It's a very quiet syndicate. You've got 15 acres of water, possibly 40 or 50 fish in it, and possibly to over 50 pounds. And that is a real maybe. I'm not 100% sure about that. I know there's maybe a mid 40 and a couple of other 40s in here, but that isn't necessarily what it's about. It's the mystery, which makes every fish special. Just because it's a bit smaller doesn't mean to say you've got to just look in it and let it go. You know, they need to be looked at and admired. They're not fish that have been caught very often, and I just can't wait to get going. I'm all togged up here. But earlier on, myself and Brad were walking around just trying to see where I was going to go. You know, no time's lost in reconnaissance, of course it isn't. And we spotted a couple of carp down in the margins. It was quite weedy, some Canadian coming up. and they were sticking their heads in it, moving around, and generally, you know, they didn't have a care in the world. And we watched it and watched it. All of a sudden, this huge column appeared in the middle of it, somewhere I would have thought between 38 and 40 pound. It just looked magnificent. And she started feeding in a certain spot, not a lot, but a couple of mouthfuls and away. Eventually, I got a hook bait in position and got some free offerings in there, which they came in and had a little go at. They were aware of it. They were coming in, having a look, veering away, and eventually they came in. One little common, possibly about 20 pound, had two little bits right next to the hook bait and moved away. And then that big common came in, and she swirled round, sort of came to almost over the top of the hook bait, picked up another bit and just moved away. You know, there was no frightening. There wasn't, oh my God, there's a rig here or anything. And they just disappeared, like carp do. And I'd hate to come to, I've done it before, I've gone to waters and caught my target fish on the first night of being there, but this is a lake, whatever I catch, I'm gonna wanna come back, and I'm gonna want a little more. It's taken me back to the late 80s when I think I know what I'm doing, but we didn't know what existed in the carp fishing world, and this is a classic example of it, and I just cannot wait to get going. You could say it's been a bit of a long day, but it's been a very, very good day. Driving down that long, windy track to get to the lake and seeing it for the first time, unbelievable. It grabbed hold of me as soon as I saw it. You can't see any obvious swims. There are gaps in it in the reeds here and in other places where you can fish. You know, it takes you back to that wondering why tackle companies make bed chairs with extended legs on these days, when swims on most lakes are more like the living room people are trying to escape from in the first place. It baffles me. I'd rather fish around nature than knock it down and through it. Anyway, we had the stalking situation, and eventually I settled on a swim that I wanted to fish in, and here we are, we're fishing it. It's very weedy on the shallower areas, which go out various distances. It drops down to 19, 20 foot in the deeper areas. And I wanted to fish two different depths. I didn't want to put both rods on one depth and fish like that. So I've got one, the right hand rod, and both of them are exactly the same distance from the bank, oddly enough. And that's probably in about 10 foot of water. And it was obviously silty. And one side of the area, every time I reeled in, it was some chod and some dead leaves on it. But there was another area just to the right of it, and it was clear, it was just this beautiful silt. So I've got a rod there, and I've got a rod over to the left, same sort of distance, with in a little bit firmer. It feels like clay to me, my conversation with the lead. And it just seemed ideal. Both rods are about half a rod length from where the Canadian weed starts coming up towards the bank. And that for me was ideal. I wanted to give a spread of boilies with the bait, so I've used my spawn, sort of one beyond it, one just short, one to the left, one to the right. And I did it with both of them, just a nice little spread, 15 and 10 mil cell boilies, and just a few cell response pellets. I'll probably get the tension, the bream active if anything, but I think once that sort of activity starts, it very often attracts the carp, although we may not like it. Do you know what? It's the mystery. It really is the mystery that's grabbed me, and I've seen a few of the fish photographs, not many of them, probably about 10. And yeah, they're special carp, and it's a very special lake, and I can't wait to open my account. But yeah, we'll have to see. It's we've seen a few shows, and out a little bit further than the end of the tree I'm fishing under there, we've seen 2 carp in that area, and there is a feature on the underwater map out there, so that might be bring some bearing to the fish showing there. And 30 yards up to our left is where we were stalking those fish earlier on. So all in all, it made a good choice. The northwesterly wind is blowing into this bank. I'm very often, and I probably don't like it, a bit of a slave to the wind, but this is where we've seen the carp, so this is where I'm going to fish from. Choosing the right swim on a new water, it can be a real problem. You know, I've been lucky enough, I've had a little bit of indication of the carp from where I ought to be, but one little tip I'd give you, if you're out there and you're guessing and you don't really know where the fish are, I'd fish in a swim, if you're prepared to move, of course, that offers the best view of the lake. And this one does just that. I can see 3/4 of the lake from here. And if I see fish, then I can move into that area and get the most of my time on the venue. I only do 48 hours. I don't do any more than that. So I've got to take advantage of every hour I can. And every hour you're out, you need to be looking. Don't sit back there with your door down, looking at the latest films. This is the movie screen you need to be looking at. And it will tell you everything you need to know and learn about the movement of the carp in your lake. And I can't say that strongly enough. People who zip those doors down, I'm thinking, well, you know, you're just blocking out the world that you're trying to escape to, trying to get into the wild. And yeah, leave the TV at home, have a radio, listen to a little bit of news or whatever, but keep your eyes on the water. And you'll probably see a carp, just like I did, over the other side that spooked a goose. And that's whilst we were talking. So yeah, maybe you'll see me over the other side in a minute if there's another one. We don't know, but I'm happy where I am with the information that I've gained from the carp at the moment, and we'll just see how things unfold overnight and see if I've got to make some adjustments in the morning. It's the evening now, and it's such a wonderful time of day, and you can tell Heathrow's slowing down a little bit, the M3 is slowing down a little bit, and Fortley have shut up shop and the lights have come on the roller coaster. I hope we're going to be on a roller coaster a little bit later on, but that's totally up to the carp. Today has been a massively interesting day, from coming onto a lake for the first time to finding fish in the edge. Just up the way up to our left here, and seeing them feed and being probably 2 to 3 inches away from catching a 40-pound common. Yeah, my heart was definitely in my mouth, and I love those occasions. And even sometimes when they don't work like that, it's still a thrilling, exciting thing to happen, and something that so many anglers miss out on, that eyeball to eyeball contact. We've seen 2 show out just a couple of rod lengths beyond where my left hand rod is. So, and that was obviously an area I wanted to investigate. I found a little pinnacle that comes out of the shelving that goes around most of the lake, and it seemed the perfect place, and in about 5 foot of water. The other rod is in the silt, not deep silt, it's quite good silt to pull the lead through, with a good scatter and a bait around it down to the rod. So it's 2 different depths. Both of these rods are half a rod length beyond the weed. Now, weed is a massively important thing, and we can all be a bit scared of it because it's supposed to take the oxygen out of the water at night, and I still caught carp out of weedy areas at night, and I've never found any truth in it, although it may do that. But I want to be close to it. 1, it provides massive amounts of food for carp. 2, it provides safety for carp. And 3, it provides comfort for carp, and those 3 basic things make up the vast majority of their life. So I'm very near to that. The other thing with bands of weed that run through the lake, they become passageways for carp, and you see them often when you climb the trees, and you can actually see the carp moving. They're travelling along the side of the weed beds. So I think there's a perfect interception point. Certainly a good interception point for jumbo jets landing on your head. But yeah, and further down to our right, there is a snag bush, about 100 yards down there, and we've seen a couple of fish in there. So I've baited up just round that as well. So if they're coming up here for a bite to eat, they'll get a taste of the cell before they get here. And that's the traps and the session so far. It's been a real blast. It's been a real eye-opener. And I just, over to the carp, and I hope they play ball. First thing in the morning, and it's time for a little bit of an update. I probably had one of the best night's sleep I've had in a long time on the bank. No indicator activity, heard no fish in the night. It's just still. And when I woke up, first light, looking across the lake, it looked absolutely dead. There was nothing, there's an awful lot of water boatmen here scooting around everywhere, but apart from that, the lake was dead. I just had a look down there at one of the spots I baited up. It's not just around the corner here in the margins. Nothing's really changed there, and there's one up to the left, and nothing has changed there either. I'm half packed away as it is, and I'm going to get everything loaded onto the trolley, onto my barrow, and I'm going to get on the move. I've got options. There were a lot of fish in the snags, evidently yesterday, from a guy who was just leaving, and that is my first port of call when I find out what I'm going to do. We are now at the other end of the lake. We moved further up this morning, thinking we would have to get nearer where we'd seen fish yesterday. I saw fish very near to those snags show, and there was a guy in the swim, saw fish in the snags, and then we saw two a little bit further down, but in the open water. We thought we were in the right area last night. There was nothing. Even the silverfish seemed to ease off in that area. So we went up the top end. We sat there for a while thinking, and I've got everything packed on the barrow, and mobility, I think, is the key in these sort of situations. When you've got so few carp in a lake, you need to be where they are and not wait, or where they're likely to be, because it can get a little bit, ridiculous sitting in one swim. Anyway, came all the way down this side of the lake. We saw one boom out, and it was a big fish right in the middle of this section of the lake. And when we came down for a little look, there's a lot of little fizzing, little bits going on, like this carp moving through the weed or whatever, but it's very deep water here. Now there's one feature right out in front of me now that is about 12 foot that comes out of, in places, 19 feet of water. And to me, that was interesting. I wanted to come around here yesterday, have a lead around, and maybe put a little bit of bait in the channel between that feature and this bank. So what I've done now is we walked up and down again. We weren't quite sure which one we were going to settle in. We've settled in this one. A rod round to the left, very hard. I've done it a couple of times and taken a step back and a step forward, and it seemed exactly level. So I don't mind putting boilies on that. I might flatten them a little bit so they sort of land on the same place and don't roll down the hill. And then at the bottom of the slope down there is a lovely silty spot. It's not bad silt. A lot of it I smelt when I was out there putting the lead out. I didn't do it a lot, but the ones I did smell were really horrible, smelly stuff. And just round a little bit further to the right, I found somewhere a little bit firmer. It's still silt, but it seems ideal to put a hook bait in. It can be so frustrating, but you've got to have a hook bait in the right area and present it as well as you possibly can. One of the spots I was looking for round the left, it sent up so much when the lead landed in the silt. There's a little volcano going off. So hopefully I've got it sorted. Boil is flattened a little bit. We'll fire them out with a catapult around the hook baits, and hopefully the traps are set. As boring and laborious as this might seem, there is method in my madness. There is a slight slope out there, but it's in the areas that I've tested with a lead, it just seems a little bit negligible. But just to be sure that I've got some bait around the hook bait, I'm just flattening these boilers off. And I'm not going to put many 15 millers out there, probably a couple of pouchfuls and a couple of pouchfuls of 10 millers. And that'll be the trap set. As we said before, eventually I've got to this particular swim on the lake, been looking all the time. And one of the biggest things about going to a new lake, I think, is keeping a record of everything that you see and you actually do. If you're going to go around with a lead and just cast about, then take your measuring sticks with you when you do it, and your notebook, and you can gather that information, the wraps to the particular spots and things that you've found. Even better with a marker float if you like, because you'll get the depths immediately and easily pick up the variations. So they're the main things to do. Don't be surprised when you go to a new venue if you don't catch immediately. Certainly on a venue like this that is terribly low stocked, but these are the type of waters that I enjoy fishing. But we can blank anywhere. It doesn't, you can rate yourselves the best carp angler in the world, you're still going to blank now and again, and it's taking strength from those blanks, and also strength from the things that you learned while you blanked, the things you weren't doing. The things you think you should have done, things that you can remind yourself of in a diary. You'd be quite surprised. It's probably the most, apart from the conversation you'll have with the lead when you're fishing, is the conversation you can have with yourself. And you can, remind yourself to do the things that will hopefully get you nearer to catching a carp. And when you do, don't just think it's a one-off. You may have hit on something. Try and exploit the tactics you're using. Even if you've only got sort of overnighters a couple, maybe in a week, or just a night at the weekend. The information you gain whilst you're fishing are as important as the hooks, as the line that you're using, because those are the things that you can build on to make you or to help you improve your fishing over the course of time. So take a notebook and make sure you record everything you see and learn about the lake. One tip I think I have for you when it comes to fishing a new venue is the actual rigs that you're going to fish with and cast around with. You are not going to be that familiar with the topography and the makeup of the bottom of the lake. Some kinds of silt are certainly a lot deeper than others. Obviously there's gravel and things to consider and whatever, and weed, probably the most important of all. And I want to talk about the helicopter rig, the rig that I'll use when I go to a new venue. Certainly if there's a lot of depth involved, I'll be using a helicopter rig, because it's a rig that I can't tangle, so that's another little bonus. But what it does is allows me to adjust how far that lead goes into the silt whilst leaving the hook bait ready to fish and sit correctly above whatever bottom I'm fishing over. And I mean, it's worked so many times, casting at single fish when they've been showing, knowing I'm fishing over a light sort of weed on the bottom. It tends to work really, really well. I'm just going to touch on how to set this system up. There you'll see 2 tapered mainline sinkers on the main line. And you might think 2's a little bit of an overshot. Believe you me, the rig itself causes a lot of resistance in flight, and one of those will go away up your line and you're fishing it completely differently to how you thought you would. You put 2 on there and it will hold up for 2, maybe 3 sessions, certainly with a little bit of casting. After that, they tend to wear out and will slip very, very easily, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just safer that way. Next thing we're going to slide up the line is a tapered bore bead. Simply there to stop the hook link going flying up your main line when you cast it out. Yeah, I'll make it as small as I can so as not to increase the pressure on the beads that are going to slide up your line anyway. Next, you're going to thread up your line, your hook link swivel. Now, this is a little flexi ring swivel, and I put the main line through the big ring of it to allow ease of the line coming out through it. There are ones with quick changes on, but mine is tied directly to that swivel to increase the chances of that little loop I put in there doing what I hope it does. The next thing is a heli buffer sleeve, and what this does, obviously, with that little bit there is protects the line. One, when you're casting, and more importantly, when you're playing the fish, and it works an absolute treat. And one thing I have noticed is if you don't get it to sit right down on the lead, I think it causes the odd tangle. Believe it or not, as mad as that sounds, because as you cast and the line stretches, that pulls off of the lead, and I don't want that to happen because it can cause problems. So I slip a little bit of silicone rubber onto the main part of the swivel and push that down over the top, and it helps the sleeve to grip the lead perfectly. And that's it, really. I don't think in carp fishing you can get a more simple lead setup or rig with this. I mean, if you're surface fishing, it's a different matter. But yeah, you know, it's when you're using a lead in your fishing, and I use as big a lead as possible. The bigger lead, the better impact it's got with the hooks set, and jobs, you know, jobs are good. I like it. It works for me. And any carp that I've lost have never been found with towing my tackle around, that's for sure. It's just before dark now. It's starting to, you know, the old sun's gone down and the darkness is setting in. I mean, the whole thing has been an interesting voyage of discovery, and I've thoroughly enjoyed every minute of it. I'm a bit knackered now running around the lake at 65 years old, but that's the child within me. Saw another big fish boom out in the open water not long ago, and in terms of the people on the lake, there's 2 other people fishing. That means I'm the nearest one to a fish, which I'd like to think. I mean, it's up to the carp, isn't it? It is, you can do your best. I hope I've put that hook bait in the right place and surrounded it with the right bait. That's all you can do over to the carp. But yeah, the voyage of discovery will go on regardless of what happens tonight. But yeah, a carp would be nice, but I won't be upset if I don't catch one. Okay, I'm coming to the end of my first 2-day session down here on this absolutely stunning lake. I've said it before and I'll say it again. As soon as I set eyes on the place, I fell in love with it. And one of the nicest things, and I think about fishing anywhere, is the few people that I've met. They've been so nice, and it's something that I always find very important. You want to get on with the people that you're fishing around, and the last thing you want to do is barge into somebody and say, how many you had? Where are you fishing? What bait are you using? What rigs are you using? It's the last thing you want to say. If somebody wants to give you that information, then it might come through in a normal conversation, but let them be the decider on whether or not you get that information. If not, just wish him good luck and disappear off up the lake and make him a brew next time you see him in your bivvy, or her, whatever. It's an important aspect of it. So that was nice. That made me feel a little bit more comfortable. I have to say, one of the greatest things we saw were the carp feeding in the margins. They weren't feeding heavily. They were just grazing through a little bit of weed, tipping down now and again, and it was so casual. I don't believe I did a single thing to scare them, but I got a rig in there eventually, and they came up. I've probably got within 2 inches of catching a 40 plus common. It didn't spook, it didn't do anything, it just gently swam off to another bit of weed, which was an incredible thing to witness anyway. But there's a good point there when you go to a new water. Have a rod ready for immediate use. Don't try and walk around and have a rod with you. And a landing net. I mean, at least if you haven't got all the rest of the gear, you can prop it up in a landing net in the water, go and get your unhooking mat and all the rest of it. There's ways around it all, but the first thing you got to do is find the fish and fish for them. We've learned an awful lot here. I had a topographical map of the lake a friend gave me, Gordon, bless his heart, sent it over, and it's been interesting. I moved into this area, and there's a guy, who sort of liked this area. He came down last night, and we had a chat with him. So I would suspect from that, although I didn't ask him, there's been carp from here. It might be quite a productive area. There's a feature out there, which in a rather featureless water is quite a good thing to have. And the fish, obviously, it looks like a little roundabout to me. So the things like that, there's a lot of bubbling going on, but I found some horrible smelly silt when I've been casting around, and when I unplug the lead from it, you see a massive fountain of bubbles come up to the surface, and the stuff you reel out of it smells disgusting. You just don't want to put a hook bait in it. But I found other areas that are a lot better to fish. But that bubble, all those bubbles are mainly coming out of that silt and not fish. But when we saw the bubbles coming out of the weed, that's when you know it's carp, because it goes along in a line, or it could be tension bream, of course it could, but it's a fish that's a little bit bigger than the shoal of rudd that swim around here. It's been a wonderful couple of days. And all I've done is fall more in love with it every 5 minutes of the day. So I'm looking forward to getting back here again. I only do a couple of days a week. I'm not going to camp out here and try and catch one. I do it at my own speed. And I look forward when that rod goes off. I just want to get that feeling in my knees when you think you're going to fall over or faint, where you are just so excited. It might sound terribly childish to those who don't know, but that is the feeling that carp fishing can give you. And hopefully I'll be back next week and I'll get some of it myself.